So you see, Mr. Bardich, this is what BCG says. She says she remembers meeting with the elders, that's you and Mr. Roy and Mr. Ally, by herself on a number of occasions for a couple of hours at a time. On one occasion, you brought her father into the room so that she could tell him what she had told the elders. She cannot recall exactly how many times she had to meet with the elders. She didn't want to be there. She felt so uncomfortable. And she says, I had nobody to support me. I don't remember anyone really explaining the purpose of the committee meetings to me, but I understood at the time that the elders were investigating what I had alleged. And then if we look over the next page, perhaps you can read 43 to yourself. And then you see in 44, she says, because the elders were all male and all were friends of my father's, I was reluctant to speak to them about what had happened. Unless they asked me a direct question, I didn't really offer the full detail of the sexual abuse. So you'll appreciate that the constraints that BCG felt under about being able to speak freely.
Yeah, I can understand that.
And I think in your statement, you recognize that in the sense that you say the story came out in bits over time. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. And do you appreciate or do you accept that it's not a process, or I withdraw that, a process where the victim has to put her allegations to the accused in front of a number of men is not one that's conducive to arriving at the full story?
I can understand that, and I felt for her then, and I'm still feeling for her now.
It's not a good process, is it?
Could be better.
Yes.
I think that's what we're all trying to arrive at here, is processes that are better for ones that are victims.
So if we might identify the respects in which it might be made better. Firstly, that a person raising sexual abuse allegations have someone with her to support her if she should want it. That would be an improvement, wouldn't it?
Yes.
And that she not be required to put those allegations in the presence of her alleged abuser.
Yes.
Yes. And that she not be required to put it to a committee of 3 men. That would improve it, wouldn't it?
Sorry?
That would improve the process, wouldn't it?
Yes, the committee of 3 has got a purpose, because every one of us will hear different things, and it's to make sure that we get to the truth as much as we can.
Well, what BCG is really saying here is she felt unable to tell the whole truth, in part because she was having to say these intimate things to 3 elders who were friends of her father. That was hard for her.
At that time, we thought that he was a disgusting man. We believed her 100%. And we just wanted to see him out of the congregation.
Mr. Bowditch, that's not the point of the question.
Oh, sorry.
The point of the question is that the process that you engaged in required this young woman to disclose intimate details about what her father did to her sexually to 3 men, each of whom was a friend of her father. Now, do you not understand the difficulty that a young woman would have disclosing personal sexual details to 3 men?
Yes, I understand that, Your
Is it
Honour.
appropriate that your processes require that to happen?
I understand that, Your Honour.
Is it appropriate?
Is it appropriate? Probably could be a better way of doing it.
What's the better way?
I am unsure of that.
When you do understand, I assume, how difficult it would be for a young woman to speak in those circumstances.
Yes, Your Honour.
Can we look at paragraph 5.1 of your statement? That's at page 0004 on Ringtail.
Sorry, what was the number again?
Page 5. Paragraph, I beg your pardon, 5.1 of your statement.
Yes.
You'll see under the heading, the decision of the elders in the Mariba congregation to disfellowship BCH in 1989 and the reasons for that decision. And you say the decision to disfellowship was based on his immoral relationship with another woman and leaving his wife and family, and his lying about this to the elders. I recall also that we felt the sexual abuse had been established. The appeal committee confirmed the decision to disfellowship him. Both committees found that he was unrepentant. Now, in fact, you did accept, in the sense you believed BCG's allegations about her father, didn't you?
Can you repeat that, sorry?
You personally, you believed what BCG told you about her father?
I believed it right from the start.
And is it right that her father admitted those allegations in the presence of the committee eventually?
In the presence of the appeals committee.
Yes, well, you say that in a paragraph I'll come to in a moment, but dealing first with the judicial committee, did he not admit it in the presence of the judicial committee?
Not to my recollection, no.
Take a look at tab 3 of the tender bundle. Perhaps we can scroll down and show you the foot of that page as well, the end of the document. It's just a one-page document. You see it has your name, and I take it that's your signature, is it?
Yes, my signature's on top there.
Yes, and this is the report of the Judicial Committee back to the branch office on the disfellowshipping of BCH, is that right?
Yes.
When last did you have the opportunity to look at this document, Mr. Bardage?
Probably 26 years ago.
You haven't seen it in the last few days or few weeks?
No.
Right, let's scroll to the top. I'd like you just to read it to yourself, and at the end of it, see if you agree that there's nothing in there about BCG's allegations about her father.
No.
Yes. Now, what did you, by which I mean, what did the Judicial Committee decide with regard to BCG's allegations?
With putting it in this document?
Well, it's not in the document, so
No.
I'm asking you, what conclusion did you reach with regard to the allegations that BCG made and which you investigated?
We believed BCG from the very start. We never believed BCH, I think it is.
Her father.
Yes.
Yes.
We never, ever believed him, and that's why we pushed, if you want, that's why we tried so hard to get him removed from the congregation.
Yeah. And you removed him on these grounds of loose conduct and lying.
Yes.
Related to his relationship with another woman.
And also, that lying, I'm not real sure now because I cannot remember the total details of that, but I think that lying would have come in with the allegations about BCG.
On the scales on which you deal with these things, how do you compare the seriousness of sexual abuse allegations and, on the one hand, compared with pursuit of an adulterous relationship on the other?
My personal opinion right now is I would consider that any abuse is going to affect the person. Just trying to think of a better word.
Well, it's far more serious, isn't it?
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's a criminal offence to start with. Sexual abuse, child sexual abuse is a criminal offence. Yes. And back then, in 1989, you would have had that same view, I take it. You would have regarded
with a passion
sexual abuse of a daughter by a father, firstly, very seriously.
I've got a daughter of my own around the same age, so yes.
And more seriously than the pursuit of an adulterous relationship by someone.
Personally, that is my opinion. The Bible would state it as bad as, if not worse.
And in reaching a decision, you and your colleagues on the Judicial Committee, I suppose, were applying the Bible standards, were you?
Can I just have that again, please?
In reaching a decision on the Judicial Committee on these matters that were before you, were you applying the Bible's standards as to the respective seriousness of the two different sets of allegations?
We were applying the Bible standards at that time.
In other words, you were regarding the sexual abuse allegations as being of the same degree of seriousness, or perhaps less than, the allegations of the adulterous relationship?
Definitely not.
Well, if that's so, how do you explain that this report doesn't mention anything about the sexual abuse allegations?
I'm unsure on that.
And at that stage, in other words, when you reached your decision, you also knew, did you not, that the elder daughter had said that she had also been abused by her father?
I can't remember that at that stage. I'm not, I'm not trying to skirt around it.
So it may have been like that.
I'm unsure.
Yeah. And that the mother had reported that the two younger daughters, who at this time, 1989, were still quite young, had also been abused by the father.
Don't remember that.
Was the problem for you here that you somehow regarded the two-witness rule as applying and you didn't have a second witness of the actual events?
That wasn't the case.
Well, what would appear to be the case is that you didn't uphold the sexual abuse allegations. Are you able to explain why not? Why is there not a finding recorded here by your Judicial Committee that BCG had been abused by her father?
I'm unsure, but I would rather guess, because he was not admitting to it at that time, but I am unsure.
You say that's a guess.
Beg your pardon?
You say that is a guess. You guess.
I'm not saying for sure, yes.
Yes. No more questions, right?
You say, although it may have been that he wasn't admitting to it at the time, you've said a number of times now that you always believed BCG.
Yes.
Why wasn't that enough to found a decision to disfellowship?
On those grounds, I am unsure, and I don't know why we didn't put that in there. But at the same time, he was being disfellowshipped.
Yes, but you understand that for BCG, the trauma of having been abused and then the traumatic experience of being interviewed by the three of you, having to confront her father, and then the decision that you make, paying no regard, as recorded, to what she went through and the process of your committee. Do you understand that in itself
Yes.
was an extraordinarily negative thing for her to receive?
I can understand that, yes.
Well, can you give me any explanation as to why you let that happen?
Yes, Your Honour. Yes, thank you, Mr Burridge. My name is Ms David and I represent BCG this hearing.
Sorry, I'm having trouble.
My name is David and I...
Maybe just move that microphone
Yeah,
so your
Sorry.
voice captures is captured.
Thank you, sorry.
my name is David and I'm representing BCG at this hearing. And I just have a few questions for
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Just on the point of, because the allegation was not substantiated under your Judicial Committee proceeding, do you agree that therefore it was not known within the congregation that in fact that BCH had been, what was known to have actually abused his daughter sexually?
That would...
Well, it was not...
Yeah, just clarify that a little bit and I will give you the truthful answer.
If you go to your statement, if you could please go to your statement,
What page?
8.1, and that's number, it's 8.1.
8.4.
Do you agree that you've stated in your evidence that the reasons for BCH's disfellowship, as we've established, had nothing to do with the allegations from BCG?
So what it's saying that can't even see how that would have come up. And I'm not trying to be evasive either. I'm just trying to work with you. There's usually about 7 days between a judicial committee and appeals committee. That appeals committee, I believe, upheld the decision of the judicial committee, and also, and that is where he admitted in front of the appeals committee of the molestation, and so that would have been added at that time.
But that information is not ever released within the congregation, is it?
No.
No. And so, therefore, do you agree that the process, by keeping it in-house and your processes, do not enable a measure of protection to be put in place to protect people from the likes of BCH?
The protection was he was, if you're talking about that particular case, he was no longer in the congregation.
But he went to another congregation, didn't he?
Yes.
And that information wasn't passed on, was it?
I don't know, because I wasn't there at that time.
So he was left out there in the community, wasn't he?
Yes.
And just coming back to BCG, you did take her in at some point, didn't you?
Yes.
You looked after her. I want to suggest to you it was quite close to the wedding. In fact, no more than a couple of weeks before the wedding that she actually moved in with you and your family.
I wouldn't have any idea.
Right.
I tried to work that out, but
and that before that, you did assist with her and you were helpful in organising for her to stay with another family, the Grigors.
Yes.
Yeah. But that wasn't immediate, was it? I want to suggest to you that it wasn't immediate after the committee meetings. It was actually some months before any measure was put in place to put her in a housing situation that protected her.
I'm unsure of that now.
Yes. And so, because what I'm suggesting to you, that there was, for some months, she was exposed to her father coming back into the house that she had been living in with her mother and the rest of her family.
I have no recollection of that, because my recollection is the father moved away.
Well,
pretty well straight away.
You were aware from your knowledge within the community that there was there were attempts at reconciliation between BCH, the BCG's mother and father, and that he returned to the community on a number of occasions?
No. No recollection of it anyway.
But you're not disagreeing that it couldn't have happened?
Beg your pardon?
You are not disagreeing that it happened, though,
no, I'm not
are
disagreeing.
You? No.
I really just don't know. No. Sorry.
So, in reality, she was very exposed, wasn't she, BCG, to a man that you observed to be quite violent, even in a aggressive sort of a man who was quite. You observed him to have a violent nature even within the committee process, didn't you?
Yes, in the committee process. That's why we told him to back off.
Yeah. So, but you had some measure of control within that process, because there was a number of men there that may have been able to protect her. You agree with that?
Yes.
But outside of that committee process, there was no such protection afforded her, was there?
I know she's BCG stayed with at least one other family, but I thought there was other families as well. But I can't confirm that.
In this particular case, given that you are dealing with a man who you've described as disgusting, and a man that you knew to had a violent predisposition from your own observations, wouldn't that have been the very particular case that you might have thought would be appropriate to send to the police? To notify the police to ensure that BCG was protected?
I agree with that, but at the same time, there were discussions about that very point with BCG, And you've got to realise, maybe if I explain the situation to you, can I do that?
Yes.
Here you have a gracious young lady who was about to get married to a young man, and she wanted to get on with her life. Okay? And I guess for that reason, even though that was spoken about with her, and she spoke about it with me, going to the police, we said that was a decision, I said that was a decision that she would have to make herself.
Isn't it a decision that she was actively dissuaded from doing?
Sorry, I didn't...
Isn't it her going to the police, she was dissuaded from going to the police by you and other elders, wasn't she?
Never by me, never.
But you're not aware of other elders. But wouldn't you think that by going to the police or some other organisation that they would be sensitive to this, as you describe, her gracious young lady, sensitive to her needs and deal with it appropriately to protect her?
That could be the case.
Were you aware of her suicide attempts?
No.
That you had no involvement in that? Did you take any steps to ensure that she had proper counselling to deal with the distress of her experience at being abused?
You mean outside involvement?
Well, firstly, outside involvement, yes. Outside of the congregation.
Did I personally take her somewhere?
Did you take any steps to encourage her to seek counselling outside the congregation?
I can't remember if I did or not, but it would be something that I would normally do.
That you would.
Is there any inhibition on a member of the Jehovah's Witness seeking professional counselling from someone who is not a Jehovah's Witness?
No.
Is there any inhibition on you as a member or an elder encouraging someone to go to outside professional help?
No. I can... Just got to be careful how I say this. But there are people in the congregation who have got outside help, and it is even encouraged in our magazines. One this year for that sort of thing.
You said, I think, before that you would normally do something like that. Have you ever done that in a situation where you have been faced with a person who has made an allegation of sexual abuse?
Not an allegation of sexual abuse have I encouraged somebody, but I have on other matters.
I just want to ask you, just briefly, it is within the practice within the congregation, isn't it, that a child must be obedient to her father?
There's limitations on that.
But that is the rule, isn't it?
There are limitations on that. You know, that's not for everything. Like if the father told her to steal a lolly out of a shop, I know this is different, but it just brings out something. That child is not to be obedient to their parents. There's a higher. Does that make sense?
So, but it would be person primarily responsible for the disciplining of a child is clearly the father in the family, isn't it?
Parents.
But in particular, in the Jehovah's Witness faith, it is the father.
The father has a responsibility, but the parents work with that together.
But you would expect, wouldn't you? Is it not that you would expect if there was if a young woman had something to say about her father, that you would expect her to go and talk that out with her father, wouldn't you? Like, as in this case, at BCG, what I'm suggesting to you, that in fact BCG, you at the time expected that BCG confront her father and speak to her father about all the allegations.
No, I didn't expect that.
And that no one would listen to her in the absence of her being confronted by her father within a very short period of time.
I understand the first part of that, but I just don't understand the second part.
Well, the committee process involved the accuser facing the person she's accusing, didn't it? And that's what you would expect. That's what your faith expects, isn't it, of a young woman, that she must confront the accuser.
She doesn't have to, and particularly now, because this is changing, right?
Yes. But at the time that was the case, and that was that was how the procedures occurred.
And as much as anything, that was for a healing process, and I think even the law of the land understood that at the time. It was for a healing process, so she could get it out and tell the person that had carried out this vile act against them.
But the healing process would also involve, would it not, the receipt of an apology? Wouldn't it? An apology is a big part of a healing process.
Oh, yes, I agree with that.
And that never occurred, did it, throughout that committee process?
No.
And it never occurred at any time, did it?
No.
And she was never told, was she, at any time, that in fact the committee believed her 100%?
I told her.
I'm suggesting that neither you nor anyone else ever told her that she was believed.
I told her.
And I'm suggesting that in fact that all she was told was that because of the manner in which you needed to prove an allegation with at least two additional statements or eyewitnesses, that then you were not able to take the matter further.
I've never said that.
No, I'm saying that was your procedure at the time, wasn't it? That you needed the additional witnesses. You believed that you needed to have two statements at least to corroborate what she had said.
Two people? What are you saying there? You know.
What I'm suggesting to you, that the only thing that she was told was that because there were no witnesses to corroborate what she had said, that you couldn't take any action in relation to the abuse upon her.
We were taking action.
But not in relation to her abuse, you were taking action in relation to those other matters.
And that as well.
Did you arrange for her to have any sister from the congregation or someone to assist her and support her through this process?
There was a number of sisters in the congregation that supported her.
She was never referred to any of the sisters.
Quite well. Not as well as my own children, but quite well.
Was she a friend of your children back then?
Yes.
Back in 1989, BCG was engaged.
Beg your pardon?
BCG was engaged back in 1989.
Yes.
Did you know her fiancé?
Yes.
How well did you know him?
Probably not as well as BCG, but I knew him well.
Okay. Did BCG's fiancé have anything to do with supporting her during the Judicial Committee and Appeal Committee process?
He was there with her at one period, not in the actual room, but he was there at the Kingdom Hall.
Okay. The Appeal Committee was in July 1989, and you've given evidence that you tried to support BCG after that time. Is that correct?
Yes.
How did you do that?
In a number of ways. This was done by, first of all, the sisters, or some of the sisters in the congregation, were told that she needed support. Tried to find
I'll
who.
stop you there. Who were they? Who got any names?
Yes, I can tell you some. Am I allowed to say their name?
Perhaps you can just write them down.
Okay.
Please. Is the process then to tender that document?
Well, you can have a look at it and see what you want to do with it.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not sure for our purposes we need the names at all.
Oh, okay. Well,
But if you've got a different purpose, I don't
no,
know.
I don't. We move on from that. Aside from the sisters, what else did you do?
I did that, yes.
If I could just show you two documents. And Your Honour, I intend to tender these documents, and my friend has copies of them and has seen them. I've got. Oh, you could show those, please.
Thank you.
Your Honour, we'll see that they're photographs, and we'll ask for a non-publication order in relation to them because there's no need for identify people. We'll prepare an order in due course, Your Honour.
Well, the purpose is to demonstrate that Mr. Ali,
Mr. Bowditch.
Mr. Bowditch gave BCG away.
And was supporting her in November 1989.
Is November 1989 the wedding time? Is it?
Yes.
Well, we know that already.
Yes.
Do we need photographs?
I was going. We need the second one.
I'm sorry?
Think.
Well, there's two photographs that are clearly wedding photographs.
Yes. Yes.
I don't think we need those.
Okay. No, I concede that, Your Honour.
Well, we'll hand them back.
Thank you. Mr. Bowditch, you did give BCG away at the wedding.
Yes.
You used your vehicle as the wedding vehicle.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Did your wife assist at all in relation to the wedding?
Yes. My wife is a seamstress,
Yes.
and I do believe she made the dresses for the two young girls.
Yes.
We were also involved in the planning for that. The congregation, along with the family, our family, provided much of the food for that, and any other support, entertainment, that was provided by the congregation as well. So there was support all around.
Thank you. Did you assist BCG and her husband after the wedding as far as somewhere to live?
Yes, we did. I can't say whether it was straight after or not, but they were given the use of the flat at the back of the Kingdom Hall,
Yes.
which is a little bit unusual because that's usually reserved for one of the elders, ministers, or a retired missionary, but it was given to them so that they could use.
And how long did they live there?
A couple of years, I think.
Thank you.
I have nothing further, Your Honour.
Mr. Stewart, I think BCG just wants to.
I could just raise one matter. Thank you, Your Honour. Just in relation to the supply of the house, the BCG and her husband actually paid for that as
Yes.
anybody else would, wasn't it? It wasn't given to her at all, was it?
No, it wasn't. They paid rent there.
Yes, yes. So they rented it. It was
Yes.
rental accommodation
Yes.
for which they paid. Thank you.
I have nothing further for Mr. Bowditch, Your Honour.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Bowditch. That concludes your evidence. You're excused.
Thank you.
Your Honour, the next witness is Mr. Jason Davies. He's to give evidence via video link from Queensland, and I'm advised that those who handle the technology is that they need just a couple of minutes to make it work.
You want us to
And
adjourn?
if we might have an adjournment just for a short period of time.
We'll take a brief adjournment. Let us know when you're ready.
Thank you very much.